Okay, so to wrap up today, since we're on the subject of using normals and vectors, okay, I want to show you an alternate method to accomplish. Oh, I lost them. Hold on. So we're talking about sort of like shading systems right now, and I want to give you other options that you can look at rather than using subdivisions, because we're kind of dependent upon subdivisions of surfaces so far. And in this exercise, even though this is on the east and that's not great, we'll talk about that later. But if you want to do horizontal louvers, what I showed you when I did like that preview sort of thing, I did a surface subdivision and I selected a side of each of the subdivided panels, and I used that. The other thing you can do is a series of moves. A move in Grasshopper is like a copy or an array. So let's look at it like this. If you go back into Grasshopper here, we have now an extrusion. And I'm going to thin out this extrusion and make it a little bit smaller so it kind of reads more like a, make it smaller this way too. So this kind of looks like a louver, right? Like a sunshade louver. And if I had, 4 or 5 of them going down, then it would be something that you would reasonably see on the side of a building if you've got a louver sunshade system. So with that, really, this is the geometry now that I'm working with. So let me hide some of the other stuff that's going to confuse me. So I'll just kind of go back. I don't want this plane in there. I'll keep that on so we can see it. That's enough for me. Anyway, so like I said, move in Grasshopper is like a copy. So if I'm going to go to transform and Euclidean, we have this one right here that's called move. And there's a bunch of different types of move, but the basic one is this one. It will take a geometry and it will move it along a translation vector. And a vector has what 2 things again? Vectors are always comprised of 2 things. What are they? Come on, Yi. That's one of them. Direction. And what else? No. What?
Value.
And what?
Value.
Value? What kind of value?
Number.
A number, yeah. Magnitude, right? Direction and magnitude. So basically what that's saying is where am I going and how far am I going? So we essentially can plug in the geometry to it right off the bat. Is it preloaded? Yeah, it's preloaded. So it has a translation vector that puts it 10 units in the z direction. That's okay. Our building obviously is in the z direction already because we have vertical walls. If you have like leaning walls that you're putting louvers on, you're going to need to find a surface normal to work off of. But because we're in 90 degrees, I can use the z direction. And to do that, I can just go up to vector, and I can use unit z. Unit z essentially takes the place of the amplitude component because it has a direction, an inherent direction. It's saying, I'm going in the z direction. All you have to give it is your magnitude. So I'll put in a slider from 0 to, let me do it in inches. So I'm going to say from 0 to 24. And I'm going to need a division with a 12. I'll copy it from down here. Okay, now this is going to give me inches. Do that there. So now if I'm going to go 4 inches, it's only going to offset 4 inches here. Making some sense? So we now have an offset louver. It probably needs to go in the negative direction. The cool thing is I don't have to use that negative component. I can actually just change my slider to be negative. So I'll change my minimum to be negative 24 and my maximum to be 0. So now I'm going to go down a few inches instead. Okay, so we've essentially just accomplished a simple copy. And what we're going to do next is look at how do you simulate an array. This is under vector. So first, though, I want to make sure that you're all caught up to this point before I continue. Our final video, see, I didn't start with OK this time. Our final video is going to look at basically encapsulating a list of numbers or a series of numbers that are going to inform how far these are moving. So rather than using one number, I can use a series of numbers to create essentially an array. You guys are familiar with the term array, right? Okay, and let's do this. So here is essentially how we do this. And I'm going to kind of do it the simplified way before I do it the more complex and automated way. So under params, if I grab a panel, I can essentially do a list of numbers. So I can say negative 30, or whoops, sorry, negative 10, negative 20, negative 30. That's probably going to be enough. And I'll switch it off of multi-line data. And this is going to replace the A input of A divided by B. Pretty cool, right? And I can just add on or subtract anytime I want. It's a basic array. The other way that we can do this, and this is a little bit better, we go to set and sequence, and we can create a series of numbers. Now, series is going to ask for a few things. It'll ask for a start number. It'll ask for the size of the step between each index. And then it will ask for the number of steps that you're going to take. So really, this is going to wind up being 3 sliders. We're going to say 0 is less than, what was the first one? Oh, the first number. First number is static. Well, I'll make it all parametric, actually, so you can see it. So I'm going to do kind of a universal slider from from negative 50 to 0. And I'll start my first slider at 0. And I'll plug that into S. And let's put a panel at the end so you can see it. See what's going on. All right, so there's 10 numbers that are preloaded, right? Those are the defaults. Copy and paste this down, and we're going to say 0 and 0. And it gives us this error, empty panel, because, well, we told it we have 0 number values. So if I change this slider, the count actually does need to be positive. So let me double click that. I'm going to change these values to be 0 to 10. Actually, I'm a fool. I made 3 negatives and 2 of them need to be positives. So let me delete this middle one. copy and paste that up. And we're going to say, so the slider on N and C are going to be from 0 to 10. So let me pause you guys for a moment so that you can just kind of watch what's happening. I want you to just visually understand what's going on, and then I'll give you time to plug it in and get it caught up. So basically what happens here is, as I increase the count of the numbers, more index values appear. Simple enough, right? As I increase the step, say to 1, the multiplication for each index value increases. Making sense? And then the start number obviously is just going to change where it begins. And let me go to, I need to go all the way down to my negative, whatever I'm going to start with. So negative 50. Or if I go down to 4 iterations, I would want to go to negative 40. You guys got that? So then I take that off. I don't need it anymore. And I replace the panel of static numbers with now parametric ones. So I can delete that, and I can plug this in instead. And now I have the option of changing the count. If you want to change kind of the direction that it works, right? So this slider is a negative, and it goes all the way down to the bottom and then works its way up. If I change this to a positive, I'm going to need to switch it to a negative later on. But yeah, I don't know. So it takes a little bit of calibration to get it to work right. But anyway, so that's a simple array-based Louvers system. What questions do you have? None. All right. So I'll leave this up on screen, and I'm going to come around and work with you guys to get caught up.